So I've noticed a very interesting yet disturbing trend happening in the workforce, in as far as employment goes, and unfortunately, the older generation, the seniors, the retirement, nearing retirement generation, is getting forced out. Probably mainly because they command a huge portion of businesses' overhead expenses and operating expenses as far as their salaries go and their payroll. And they're moving more towards the younger generation, the less experienced, the more cost effective, cheaper, so to speak, employment. And I've noticed that, and this is not a collective statement for all industries, but just noticing some minor tweaks and minor changes that are going on is very disturbing to me. And it was actually brought up to me that, and I noticed this already, and you guys may have noticed this too. Comment below if you've noticed this. You go somewhere and you conduct a transaction, and for the most simplistic task, the no additional services required, no additional services rendered, you find yourself at a checkout terminal, point of sale, POS, only to be prompted with a tip amount, a suggested tip. And honestly, I consider these situations, these scenarios, to be somewhat guilt inducing, provoking guilt, as you here are facing an employee eye to eye, and it asks for a tip. Best part about it is the minimum tip amount is probably like 15 or 20%. Now, don't get me wrong. I just posted up a video last night talking about tips, but that was a completely different topic. And it was in regard to employees earning their tips. This particular situation is, like I said, is disturbing for the fact that, one, usually in these situations, like, you will go, let's just say you're at the food court in the mall and you choose somewhere to eat. You step up to the line, you tell them what you want, they fill up your plate or your tray. Two or three people down the line, you're at the register and you are prepared to pay. But it says tip amount. And I'm not saying that they didn't do their job, but I don't really know if that constitutes earning a tip for just providing the service that you were going to provide anyway, that you used to provide without asking for a tip. But then I have to dig a little deeper. And I'm really kind of curious about, how do these tips actually work? And do these employees actually receive the tips? Or are the employers just adding these to the POS terminals, the point of sale terminals, at time of checkout to increase their profits? And at the same time, maybe this is some ploy to maybe this is some ploy to offset their expenses as far as paying their employees reasonable wages, and giving them raises and or benefits by getting the consumers, the customers, the patrons to subsidize that through this quote unquote tip. And this is becoming a growing concern, because the other problem is there's often instances where this tip is being requested. And I don't know if you guys are like me, but I feel the guilt piling on while you're there and they're requesting this tip and they're looking up at you, because they have to. They're waiting on your response. They have no choice. This is what has to occur for the transaction to be completed. But oftentimes, this is in a situation before the services have actually even been rendered. So I'm pre-tipping, and I can't even guarantee that the services I'm going to receive is worthy of a tip. Which, at that point, if it's not, do I get my money back? But it's very interesting, these new strategies that are and techniques that are going to be employed by businesses. You've seen it before. Tell me you've seen this before, where you get to a register and they ask, do you want to make a donation? Do you want to donate to this fund? Do you want to round up to a nearest dollar, et cetera, et cetera? We're going to ring this bell. We're going to put your name on a star and stick it on a wall so that everyone can praise you for donating. But you also know that, on the flip side, if you don't, you don't get your name on a star. You don't get the bell rung when you complete your transaction, when the person in front of you completed their transaction and they got the bell rung and everybody clapped and cheered and congratulated them, put them on their shoulders like a hip hip hooray moment. So, these are interesting techniques that are being used, and I would really love to do a little bit of a deep dive in some forensic accounting and some boots on the ground intel. That's what it is, boots on the ground intel. If anybody watching this video is currently employed and or knows someone who is employed where a tip is being requested at checkout, do the employees actually get the tip? you know? And if so, how much of the tip do they receive? Uh, I'm really curious about this because, as prices are going up and inflation keeps driving more higher prices, these businesses are finding new ways to become creative in how they're going to acquire the money out of your pocket, out of your wallet, out of your checking and savings accounts that you've worked so hard to earn, which is continuously getting harder and harder day by day. And I just find it a little disturbing that this is the direction and the route that we're going. And if it is actually being used as a tool to subsidize these employees versus these employers actually doing what's right and paying these employees what's rightfully theirs, I have a huge problem with that. And I've gotten some feedback on some of the most recent videos I've uploaded as far as the job market and employment and hiring and applications. And the feedback is coming back that, yeah, you're right. These businesses, they have these signs out. They're posting these signs and claiming that they can't find workers and they need more employees to hire. And then when you acquire or inquire about an application or the position, they say, no, it's filled. We don't need to hire anyone. So why is the poster up? Why is the sign up? Why is the advertisement still there that you're looking for help, but you're not? And the help that you have, the employees you have, the workers you have, you're not paying them well. Meanwhile, you're trying to steal money from the consumers and the patrons in this form of this guilt-driven tip request. I have no problem with tipping, especially for those who earn it. It's even more so for those who don't earn, a reasonable minimum wage, as these servers and waiters and waitresses are earning like, $2 an hour for the job that they're doing. And I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with businesses taking advantage of their customers and their employees for their own sole benefit of profits and at the expense of those that work for them and keep them operating.